writing out that big down payment check for your auto liability insurance just burn you up?
Rodney D. Young.
Cool off. Keep your down payment and get started for as little as $25. In Dallas, call 943-7303 or 1-800-442-1434. Toll free all over Texas.
Think young. Rodney D. Young.
Keep your cash cold. Call today.
Excuse me, are you on the road to good health? Or are you boxed in by a lifestyle of smoking, overeating, and high stress levels? There is a way out. The City of Dallas Health and Human Services Department offers a variety of health education materials and classes on weight control, prenatal care, stress management, and many more. So choose the road to good health and feel better.
On the next edition of Our Magazine,
There's always someone who will find you attractive.
Gary Collins profiles the fine art of finding a fella.
How many women know to browse around the men's department?
From the how-tos
If he doesn't ask you out for the second date, you make the effort to ask him.
to the not-tos,
Mr. Right is fine. It's Mr. Perfect that we have to watch out for because he just doesn't exist.
plus lots more. We make every hour count. Our Magazine, Thursday morning at 9 on Channel 8.
The March of Dimes. Birth defects are forever.
Never knew each other. They'd lived their lives worlds apart. Yet, because of the kindness of one, in death, he gave to the other a gift that is among the greatest in the world. The gift of sight. It was this simple card that allowed this miracle to occur. It was signed long ago, pledging one's eyes to the local Lions Eye Bank. Eyes that today, after the person's death, would be used in a corneal transplant that would make it possible for another person to see.
My left eye.
Before his corneal transplant operation at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, Frank Burmaster, his wife Bernice at his side, described his feelings of being given the gift of sight. He had earlier undergone a successful transplant and was now about to have sight restored in his other eye.
Tomorrow morning, I'll be going to surgery again for the left eye. And I don't think anyone enjoys going to surgery, but you do not feel too apprehensive after you've had one. You're glad because you know within a year I'll be able to see good out of both eyes. I know that if it acts the same as the last one, there'll be no pain involved in it, and no pain during the recovery.
Thus, there were two total strangers joined in a drama that is repeated thousands of times every year in hospital operating rooms around the world. But how do all of these elements, patient, donor, doctors, all come together? Through the understanding and generosity of citizens in the community who care, and the efforts and dedication of a single group, the International Association of Lions Clubs. The miracle of corneal transplants is not new. The first successful human-to-human transplant was in 1911. And in 1934, eye tissue from a deceased person was first used. In essence, though, corneal transplantation as a routine procedure is a relatively new phenomenon. The cornea is the clear window on the front of the eye through which light passes. If it is clouded through injury, disease, infection, or congenital defects, varying degrees of blindness can result. The transplant operation involves the delicate replacing of the damaged cornea with a new cornea taken from a donated eye. This grafting restores sight in over 90% of the cases in which it is performed. And in all cases, this restoration brings a new life to thousands of people every year who have lived in darkness.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you feeling? Fine. Good.
Frank Burmaster's operation was a success, and he is now able to enjoy sight in both eyes. Although it is true that only a small percentage of the visually handicapped can be helped through corneal transplants, the numbers are, in themselves, impressive. In the United States alone, of the estimated 400,000 persons afflicted with blindness, at least 30,000 could be helped with corneal transplants. More than 12,000 transplant operations are performed annually. 12,000 people who have regained their eyesight.
Perfect. Just like the other one. You did a good job then. Okay. I can see the buttons with that left eye, too. That's good.
But the tragic footnote to this success story is that thousands are added every year to the list of people who could have sight restored with a corneal transplant, but who are today blind because of the limited number of corneas available. Thus is born the challenge facing Lions and other concerned individuals. To see to it that for every person who needs it, there is a chance to once again see. The first eye bank was established in New York City in 1944, with the local Lions playing a central role. The following year, the Lions of Western New York founded an eye bank in Buffalo. Today, more than 150 eye banks are operating throughout the world, the vast majority supported by Lions clubs. The threefold purpose of each Lions eye bank, corneal transplants, instruction of physicians and students specializing in the field of ophthalmology, and research into diseases of the eye, is being achieved the world over through a step-by-step process that involves Lions at every stage.
How you today, sir? It's fine. Like to be a sight giver today, sir.
The local Lions represent the starting point in most eye bank programs. Through a variety of public information projects and periodic eye donor drives, they secure pledges from their fellow citizens for the donation of eyes after death.
That easy. You can give the gift of sight.
A special card is issued identifying the individual's commitment to be a donor. A file is maintained at a central location, and upon the death of the donor, the attending physician or next of kin will notify the eye bank. A series of events now begins that will eventually bring the miracle of sight to another human being and help in the worldwide goal of eradicating blindness.
Donor, may I get the donor's name, please?
Eye tissue must be enucleated within 6 hours of death, and the eye bank dispatches a member of its technical team to perform the procedure.
Yes, ma'am. I'll have my technician there within an hour. Thank you for calling.
Following enucleation, a thorough medical history of the donor is obtained, and the tissue transported back to the eye bank for examination with a slit lamp microscope to determine if the cornea is suitable for transplantation. If the tissue is suitable for transplant, the cornea is carefully, sterilely excised and placed in a solution that has literally revolutionized the eye bank program. This medium allows corneas to be stored up to 5 days, thus eliminating the need for transplant surgery to often being a middle-of-the-night situation. The eye bank contacts the surgeon next on the waiting list, and he accepts the responsibility for informing his patient that the gift of sight is now available. Transportation of the tissue to the location where the operation will occur is handled by the eye bank, and, if necessary, State Patrol, helicopters, and airlines all cooperate to guarantee that the transport will be as expeditious as possible. When people sign that pledge card, they will also be helping assure the success of another vital area of the overall eye bank program, that of research. Tissue used by eye banks worldwide to investigate glaucoma, cataracts, and other diseases of the eye will one day benefit all of mankind. Such research is a continuing process at institutions around the world, with scientists using the most modern of equipment, often supplied by the local Lions. Since many eye diseases tend to be hereditary, this research may ultimately benefit our children and grandchildren. Researchers also stress the need for tissue from diseased eyes. Although these corneas cannot be used for transplantation, donor tissue of this kind is critical for use in research. Questions about eye banks and the consequences of being a donor are numerous. For example, many people are concerned about the appearance of an eye donor following the enucleation. Actually, the appearance of the donor is such that the family is unable to notice that enucleation was performed and may carry out funeral arrangements as they desire. And corneas from donors of all ages may be used for transplants. Even quality of vision is immaterial, as long as the cornea is undamaged. To facilitate enucleation and eventual transplants, morticians are often licensed to obtain donations from the deceased. In many states in the U.S., a person's driver's license proclaims the bearer as an eye donor. The most effective approach is for the Lions to establish a method of communication between hospitals and the eye bank, whereby the hospital will call the bank on a 24-hour basis, giving names of all decedents, enabling the bank to check its files to determine if any had signed eye donor pledges. Eye banks are becoming more international in scope, not only in the increasing numbers of Lions-supported banks in nations around the world, but in the amount of cooperation between Lions and their eye banks representing different languages and cultures. Often, cornea tissue is transported from one nation to another for the purpose of transplant when such needs are made known. In the United States, a computer system announces immediate needs, and tissue is consequently dispatched between states. Truly, there is no better way to emphasize the need for Lions worldwide to increase their efforts in securing donor pledges and in supporting their eye banks than to listen to recipients of corneal transplants. Listen to them tell what the gift of sight has meant to them. Businessman Jerry Hall is a recipient of 2 transplants.
While vision is tremendously important, being able to see, very important, what I really hadn't realized is where my life had digressed to. I didn't realize that I had become a person who wasn't really competing in life. And through my corneal transplant, being able to see again, I could not only see visually, but I could see where my life had gone. As a result, I was able to become a competitor. I could participate in staff meetings because I could see the visuals that were being used. I could participate in my family life again because I could become enthused about the ball games and other things that they were interested in. So receiving a corneal transplant not only gives you sight, but it gives you a new life.
Eric Jones is now an active 4-year-old farm boy in northern Georgia. Eric was born blind. His father, Clyde, tells how his only son's life has changed.
Through an eye specialist, Eric had a corneal transplant on his right eye, I believe it was the first one when he was 4 months old. We were a little bit afraid of the first operation, but everything went just fine. And he went through his recovery period fine. He never had any problems. And everything went so well that when Eric was 14 months old, he had a corneal transplant done on his left eye. And we didn't have any problems with that transplant either. And he has done real well since then. He's had no problems as far as the corneas are concerned. It's amazing considering that he couldn't see anything.
Texas State Technical Institute, TSTI, offers a continuing education and technical training and an opportunity for personal development. Students develop skills in such high-demand fields as Texas traditional livestock and ranch management, in automotive and building construction and machine shop work. Some programs, like laser, nuclear, and computer science technology, reach into the space age. These programs are offered along with aptitude testing and counseling. TSTI trains Texans for jobs.
Now showing at Circle Theater, a new season for your entertainment. Call 817-921-3040 for season tickets. It's showtime, folks.
Prevent blindness. Get the facts on eye safety.
This is Reporters Roundup, a spontaneous and unrehearsed discussion of the major issues in the news. The reporters participating in today's program are Carolyn Barta, political columnist for the Dallas Morning News; Len Dunsavage, publisher of the Dallas Downtown News and the North City News; Lee Cullum, editor of D Magazine; Ann Melvin, columnist for the Dallas Morning News; and the moderator for Reporters Roundup, Cecil Johnson, editorial writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram.
Good morning. Welcome to Reporters Roundup. It is possible that somewhere along re-election trail, President Ronald Reagan could get bushwhacked at a place called Gender Gap. I get my gaps mixed up sometimes.
He might get generation gap too. Particularly with the opposite gender.
Well, just Carolyn, just what is this generation gap that seems to be overtaking President Reagan and stalking the other presidential contenders?
Well, I think what you meant to say was the gender gap, and the gender gap is the perception that women are not as in favor of President Reagan as men are, and so it's quite a bit concern for the Republicans to try to get women back in favor of President Reagan. There are various reasons why, and I think part of it is women's issues, part of it's appointments, but I think really the main reason that women, for example, voted more in favor of Jimmy Carter than for President Reagan in 1980 was the peace issue. Women are generally more dovish than men and not so strong on the fence. And I think also older women in particular have been hurt by the economic conditions.